Boaz is a name that resonates deeply in the Bible, not just as a figure in a story, but as an example of God's amazing provision, kindness, and the unfolding of his plans. Boaz is more than just a man in the Bible. He embodies the way the Lord works through ordinary people to bring about his extraordinary purposes. Boaz was a wealthy landowner in Bethlehem, living during the time of the Judges. He was a man of standing, well-respected, and known for his integrity and generosity. But who was Boaz really? How did he play such a crucial role in the Bible, and what can we learn from his life? Boaz first comes into the biblical narrative when Ruth, a Moabite woman, returns to Bethlehem with her mother-in-law, Naomi. Ruth had married Naomi's son, but after the death of her husband, she chose to stay with Naomi rather than return to her own people. This decision would set the stage for an encounter with Boaz that would change everything. The moment Ruth began gleaning in the fields to provide for herself and Naomi, she unknowingly found herself in Boaz's field. The practice of gleaning was part of God's law, allowing the poor and the foreigner to gather leftover grain after the harvest. Boaz noticed Ruth, and upon learning about her loyalty to Naomi, he took an interest in her. This interest was not merely a romantic one, but was rooted in Boaz's respect for Ruth's character and her faithfulness to God and her family. Boaz's actions were driven by his understanding of God's laws and his desire to honor them. When he instructed his workers to leave extra grain for Ruth, it was more than an act of charity. It was a demonstration of his godly character. Boaz was careful to protect Ruth, ensuring she wasn't harassed by the men working in the field. He also invited her to eat with him and provided her with extra food to take home. These gestures reveal Boaz as a man who cared deeply for others, reflecting the kindness of God. But Boaz's role in Ruth's life goes beyond mere provision. He eventually takes on the role of a kinsman redeemer. In Israelite custom, a kinsman redeemer was a close relative who had the responsibility of marrying a widow to preserve the family lineage. This was crucial in a time when a woman without a husband or sons faced a life of poverty and vulnerability. Boaz wasn't the closest relative to Ruth, but when the opportunity arose, he stepped up. After ensuring that the closer relative did not want to fulfill the role, Boaz took Ruth as his wife. By doing so, he not only secured Ruth and Naomi's future, but also preserved the family line, which would eventually lead to the birth of King David and, ultimately, Jesus Christ. Boaz's story is not just about his actions. It's about how God used Boaz as part of his amazing plan. Boaz is often seen as a type of Christ, meaning his life foreshadows the life and work of Jesus. Just as Boaz redeemed Ruth, Jesus redeems humanity. Boaz brought Ruth, a foreigner, into the people of Israel, just as Jesus brings all who believe in him into the family of God. Boaz's willingness to pay the price to redeem Ruth mirrors how Jesus paid the ultimate price on the cross to redeem mankind. Boaz's story is a powerful reminder that God can use anyone to fulfill his purposes. Boaz was an ordinary man, a farmer, but he was willing to act with compassion, integrity, and faithfulness. Through Boaz, God provided for Ruth and Naomi and ensured the continuation of the lineage that would lead to Jesus. This story teaches us that our actions, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, can be used by God in amazing ways. In understanding Boaz, we also see God's amazing provision and his care for those who trust in him. Boaz didn't just fulfill a duty, he embraced the opportunity to be part of God's plan. His actions remind us that we too can be vessels of God's blessings to others if we are willing to follow his lead.